I'm just hoping we can keep this whole thing under control after the police find out we're stealing their pensions. Do not trust the mainstream media. During the horrific fire at Grenfell Tower, not one news outlet has mentioned anything about those that jumped from the tower. Eyewitnesses say many jumped and that the true figure of those that perished has been heavily suppressed. This is an outrage beyond comprehension for the relatives and survivors. Utter shame on you all. The one who plants trees, knowing that he will never sit in their shade, has at least started to understand the meaning of life. Don't ever mistake my silence for ignorance, my calmness for acceptance, or my kindness for weakness. Compassion and tolerance are not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength. Dalai Lama. Saturday, 16th of May 2020. Beach Home Warriors Survivors Rally. Guest speakers John Wedger, Michael Tarraga, Sandy Smith, Brian Clare, Samantha Baldwin, the Blair Twins, Jimmy Robertson and more. Come and join us in the fight for justice and truth. We will not be silenced. Meet at Trafalgar Square at 12 p.m. and march on Downing Street at 1 p.m. Do you really believe that the trillion-dollar cancer industry is researching for a way to put themselves out of business? Epstein didn't kill himself, and where the F is Ghislaine Maxwell? Don't let up on her because she's heavily involved in it. Church of England faces 3,300 cases of child and other sexual abuse, might have to pay millions. Might. But again, 33 there. Freemasonry angle to this maybe. The Church of England is facing as many as 3,300 potential sex abuse cases in the form of concerns and allegations as revealed by the Church's lead bishop on safeguarding issues. The Times reported on Thursday that Peter Hancock, Bishop of Bath and Wells, shared the latest figures which concern sex abuse against children and vulnerable adults reaching up to 2016 during a 3-day meeting on the General Synod in London. Hancock did not make it clear whether all the complaints are new or a combination with long-standing ones, but even if a fraction of them are upheld, the Church of England might be forced into paying millions of dollars in compensation fees. The figures he shared revealed that 18% of the 3,300 cases involved church officers, most likely to be members of clergy, while others accused in the church setting include lay individuals and other churchgoers. Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, and Etonian, friend of the, and other top church leaders have faced months of criticism about the handling of various sex abuse scandals, including the case of former Bishop Peter Ball, who was jailed in 2015 for 2.5 years for sex abuse over 3 decades. Welby was also accused by the independent inquiry last year of failing to protect young victims, with the church blamed for concealing evidence of historic sex abuse crimes alleged carried out by George Bell, another bishop who died in 1958. The Coffee has said in a statement on its website that while the inquiry are still going on, it cannot comment on such a case as George Bell. A separate scandal unveiled in August 2017 after the independent review accepted by Welby claimed the Coffee had been advised by insurers to withdraw emotional support. The members of Congress who profit from war. Here are the senators and representatives who own stock in Lockheed Martin, Northrop, Grumman, Raytheon and other top defence contractors. It was shortly after midnight in Baghdad on Friday, January 3rd, when a missile strike ordered by President Trump killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. When stock markets opened the next day, dozens of members of Congress saw bumps in their portfolios as their holdings in defence contractors like Lockheed Martin and Raytheon increased in value on the possibility of war. Over the next 3 trading days, the leading defence industry stock index would surge 2.4% above Thursday's close. Among those members of Congress with personal investments in the defence industry are several who sit on the committees that determine major sources of funding for defence companies and weapons contractors. If you want to read the rest, links are in description. But if they've got money to be made from it, they're going to vote for war every time. They should be dismissed immediately. No one with them sort of ties should be allowed in Congress. The Philippines wants the US out, and they are not alone. The pawns of the grand chessboard are standing to move, and much more boldly. In an unpredicted by the punditry decision, the Philippines have asked US forces to leave their island indefinitely. It was impossible to think of, even 10 or 15 years ago, that a country as complex, military, helpless as the Philippines would dare to stand up to Uncle Sam. But now this has become a reality. In a microcosm, this move could be blamed on Duterte's fiery personal character, or as same sort of fluke, that this is a growing trend that will probably continue for at least the next few years, in which ideology actually plays a major unseen role. The Philippines are a poor trouble island in nation that is starting to get its house in order thanks most to a powerful, charismatic central figure. But if we look at the country through the lens of Geopolitics 101, then we can see that this nation has more value than one would think due to its location. Former CDC head and Merck's current vaccine division president, Julia Gerberding, sells 9.1 million in Merck Pharmaceutical shares as Gardasil vaccine gets bad press. SEC filings reveal that Merck's vaccine division president, Julia Gerberding, sold over half her Merck shares in January for 9.1 million. That transaction followed a spate of bad news from Merck's flagship Gardasil vaccine. Last month, Cancer Research UK announced an alarming 54% rise in cervical cancer among 24 to 29-year-olds, the first generation to receive the HPV vaccine. The following day, the Journal of Royal Society of Medicine published a withering critique of Gardasil's crooked clinical trials. It is still uncertain whether human papillomavirus, HPV, vaccination prevents cervical cancer. Trials were not designed to detect the outcome. As Gerberding knows, those trials reveal that Gardasil dramatically raises 44.6% the risk of cervical cancer among women with a current infection of those previously exposed to HPV. That may explain the cancer explosion in England and our nation's high inoculation rates in young girls up to age 18. Australia, Spain, Sweden and Norway, a 2019 study of Alabama girls found the highest cervical cancer rates in the state's most heavily vaccinated countries. With Merck's efficiency pretensions circling the drain of coalition of leader plaintiffs, lawyers and are already in discovery in a suit alleging that Merck fraudulently concealed serious illnesses affecting half and autoimmune disease affecting 1 of every 37 girls in Gardasil's cervical trials with 6 months of injection. As the Centre for Disease Control Director from 2002 to 2009, Gerberding helped Merck paper over those efficacy and safety problems. In 2006, she gave Merck the CDC recommendation that made Gardasil a $5 billion blockbuster. Gerberding did over-lucrative favours for Merck, blocking whistleblowers Gary Goldman from disclosing that Merck's chickenpox vaccine was causing a deadly shingles epidemic, silencing the pushing whistleblower Dr. William Thompson when he told her that CDC bigwigs were destroying data linking Merck MMR to autism and allowing the company to illegally reformulate its MMR mumps compound. Those courtesies earned her the Merck Sincere and stock options. Merck is now fighting extensive fraud lawsuits on both the MMR and Gardasil vaccines that threaten licensing for those key products. Fat rats are always the first to jump ship. Barclays sticks by Chief Executive Jes Staley despite questions about his links to Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, all right. Barclays insisted yesterday that it had full confidence in its chief executive, Jes Staley, after banking regulators raised more questions about his relationship with convicted US sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The latest development in the Epstein scandal came to light after Barclays said that the nature of the relationship between Mr. Staley and the late billionaire was being investigated by both the Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA, and the Bank of England's Prudential Regulatory Authority. Mr. Staley admitted that he remained in contact with Epstein for 7 years after the American financier had been convicted of sexual offences with underage girls. They're all in it together. The Barclays boss, who was paid almost $6 million last year, first met Epstein in 2000 when Mr. Staley worked in New York at JP Morgan and Epstein was one of the bank's clients, meeting in Epstein's Manhattan mansion. Despite Epstein's conviction for soliciting sex from girls as young as 14 in 2008, Mr. Staley continued to meet with him as a client and was pictured in the sex offender's Manhattan mansion with the Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates in 2011. No surprise there, the dirty bastards. Mr. Staley last met Epstein on the disgraced financier's private island in the US Virgin Isles in 2015, a few months before taking a top job at Barclays. They're all in it together. The fascist is Boris Johnson's latest employee. If anyone complains, remind them who voted for him. Dominic Cummings did ask for weirdos, and that's exactly what he's given us in the form of his fascist advisor, Andrew Sabisky. The maniac was handed the job by Boris Johnson and has been sitting on the government briefings for a week already. His known beliefs, preferences and pronouncements should tell you everything you need to know about the direction of Mr. Cummings' agreement. Let's be honest, Boris Johnson is just a figurehead and has been completely sidelined for policy management. The UK is being run by an unelected far-right extremist and now, it seems clear, the fascist helper. Boris Johnson hires new advisor who is on record suggesting that there should be mandatory contraception for the poor as soon as they reach puberty. That's right. Sabrinsky wanted to sterilise poor people. According to the Huffington Post, he sent the comments to a website run by Cummings, who seems to share the same learnings. Financial expert, the end game is unfolding before our eyes. On the heels of President Donald Trump's annual State of the Union speech, where the president declared the US employment numbers, the stock market and the economy in general are doing better than ever. A financial expert has come forward to provide his current State of the Union summary, and it is quite different that what we witnessed on Capitol Hill. In this interview, Spiro is joined by financial expert Gregory Manarino to discuss the true state of the economy and the current monetary financial system, as we see the central banks manipulating the markets at all costs to prolong the next global financial collapse. Told you we're already in it. And now we see another reason for the release of the coronavirus. Cashless agenda. China is scrubbing cash notes to stop virus spreading so its paper money won't kill you. Believe that and you'll believe bleeding anything. Research has shown that government paper money is a hotbed for bacteria, and that, at least in the US, most banknotes in circulation are tainted by cocaine. Now you can also worry about a new threat possibly sticking to your fingers when you handle a bill. A deadly virus coming out of China. China scrubs cash to stop virus outbreak. It's a push for the cashless society. That's what that really means. The People's Bank of China, which of course is a dictatorship, so it's hardly the People's Bank. The Chinese Central Bank has announced that it has taken a number of actions to fight out the spread of COVID-19, the novel coronavirus infecting the country. In a press conference on Saturday, February 15th, it was revealed that commercial banks have been ordered they must take out of circulation used notes and disinfect them. The disinfectant, fiat cash, will also need to be kept in quarantine for a period of 7 to 14 days before it can be reintroduced to the public, with the length of time bills are kept in isolation varying from region to region according to its level of infection with the virus. Moreover, the Guangzhou branch of the People's Bank of China claimed on Saturday that all used cash notes coming from hospitals, wet markets and public transportation buses will simply be annihilated as soon as possible. And according to reports from the area, stacks of cash are now being stockpiled in warehouses waiting until they can be eliminated. Additionally, Fan Yefi, Deputy Governor of the Chinese Central Bank, said Saturday that commercial banks have been instructed to give out new banknotes to clients instead of used ones if they can. For this purpose, the People's Bank of China made an emergency issuance of 4 billion RMB in new notes to the most severely affected regions, Hubei province, right before the recent Lunar New Year holiday. These steps are meant to secure the public's cash safety and health when using cash, Fan said. Will outbreak have long-term implications on cash? Over 1,660 people have died from the COVID-19 outbreak so far, and amongst almost 70,000 cases have been confirmed. Besides the heavy human cost, the spread of the virus has also had a strong impact on the Chinese economy. With cities under lockdown and civilians discouraged from leaving their homes, many businesses have taken a massive hit as both employees and customers have stayed away. The local stock markets have also taken a pounding, and the GDP growth numbers will probably need to be revised downwards. Outrage as Downing Street advisor backs eugenics mandatory birth control and giving kids mind-altering drugs. Barely over a government rocking rough reshuffle, UK Prime Minister monster Boris Johnson office has moved into a fresh scandal, hiring an advisor who advocates eugenics, mandatory contraception and giving children mind-altering drugs. Andrew Sibisky was one of the hires that made by 10 Downing Street after Johnson chief advisor Dominic Cummings made a high-profile call to stock the office with misfits and weirdos. Cummings has retained his position as PM. Bojo sidelined by Twitter over reshuffle as chief advisor hailed for changes. Even the controversial Cummings might have got more than he bargained for, as it has emerged that 27-year-old Sabinski once called for the universal castration programme to stop the creation of permanent underclass, and also said that the benefits of brain-boosting drugs were probably worth a dead kid. The revelations began when The Times uncovered an interview Sabinski gave to Schools Weekly in which he spoke in favour of giving children a dose of cognitive enhancement drug modafinil, mapping out the banking elite's goal for a cashless monetary system, Part 1. Back in 2014, the Bank of England became the first central bank to publish its research on digital currencies through their quarterly bulletin, Innovations in Payment Technologies and the Emergence of Digital Currencies. A leading focus was on the use of distributed ledger technology, which the researching declaring that the key innovation of digital currencies is in distributed ledger, which allows a payment system to operate in the entirely decentralized way without intermediaries such as banks. One of the main draws of this technology is the belief that cryptocurrency and stable coins offer a genuine route out of the traditional centralized model of banking that epitomizes fiat currency, but is bypassing central banks and being able to make the recent payments independent of those institutions really what the rise of digital currency is all about. Israel's Ganz vows to form a government without Netanyahu. Jerusalem. Israel opposition leader Benny Gantz is vowing to form a government that will include neither the indicted Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu nor the predominantly Arab parties in Parliament. In a series of TV interviews 2 weeks before national elections, Gantz looked to project confidence that the March 2 vote will provide the decisive outcome that eluded the two previous elections last year. Crimes not reported as public loses confidence in the police. Yeah, well, I lost confidence a long time ago, I've got to say. Watchdogs say police's capacity to investigate volume crime is extremely limited. The police watchdog has warned that public confidence is being damaged, with officers rumbled for struggling to investigate crimes such as burglary and by stop and search, which is 10 times more likely to target black people than white. Her Majesty's Inspector of Constabulary and Fire and Rescue Services said the public is increasingly not bothering to report certain crime types, generally less serious offences such as car crime. Matt Parr, HM Inspector of Constabulary, warned victims face varying chances of their reported crimes being investigated depending on where they live. The low-level but more frequent occurring offences are now known as volume crimes, which they just ignore. Fashion executive accused in rape lawsuit reportedly hosted Prince Andrew at Bahamas estate. Peter Nygaard is accused of luring women to the property. Photos from 20 years ago show their royals visiting the site. And doesn't she look like she's looking at him saying, "Yes, you dirty, filthy paedophile bastard"? That's what it looks like she's thinking. A millionaire fashion executive accused of raping 10 women and girls at his Bahamas mansion reportedly hosted Prince Andrew and the family at the property in 2000. A class action lawsuit lodged in New York City claims that Peter Nygaard lured young, impressionable and often impoverished children and women to his Bahamas property with cash payments and promises of modelling opportunities, only to then assault, rape and sodomise them. Nygaard, 78, has hosted celebrities and politicians at his property near the Bahamas capital of Nassau. Photos credited to Nygaard's website appear to show such visitors, including Prince Andrew, accompanied by his wife, or ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, and their 2 daughters 20 years ago. They're all at it, I'm telling you. You can't claim to be awoke and vote for the lesser of two evils, because critical thinkers realise they're two wings of the same bird. Be careful when you follow the masses. Sometimes the M is silent. Daily Fail. Parasite alert. Queen bans Harry and Meghan from using Sussex Royal brand. Oh no! Boris border blueprint. Immigration revolution. Migrants must have job paying at least 25,600, qualifications and speak English, pay annual fee to NHS, no benefits for 5 years. Believe that, then you're thicker than that's just bullshit, utter bullshit. Most people that work in the UK now be happy to have a job of 25,600 a year. Metro. Stormzy, Crime Star is king of glam night at the Black Shit Awards. Ban on cheap EU workers. Patel out to stop low-skilled migrant, but unions warn of care crisis. Oh, bollocks. The Guardian. Fears for UK economy as Johnson closes border to unskilled workers. New Australia-style points system will be bar non-English speakers. PM accused of hindering recovery from floods. Boy or girl? Why blind luck runs in the family? Oh, song Billie Eilish, a winner at last night's Brit Awards. Yeah. Express. Home Secretary vows to cut migrant numbers. Unveiled historic new border controls. Night to remember for Rod and the Brits. £500 payout to flooding victims too little too late. Rishi Sunak budget plan to sideline southern voters and win friends in the north. UK closes the doors to low-skilled migrant workers. I'll come back to that. Coronavirus outbreak, common drug shortage fears as output slows. My husband's emotional affair rocked our marriage. Right, back to the low skill. Right. New points-based immigration system is revealed to world. Job offers essential except for highest skilled migrants. PhD science background, speaking English and 25,600 salary all boosts prospects of being allowed into UK post-Brexit. Employers anxious after being told to end reliance on cheap labour with construction, catering and social care affected. No access to benefits during first 5 years of residency. I don't believe that's going to happen, but who knows? The scum. Brit star robbery ordeal. Styles mugged by thug with blade. Shaken singer handed over cash. Harry knife. Who the hell is he? No idea. Mirror. Crap gone glamour. News alert. Get out. Evacuation warning as deadly floods to get worse. A month's rain to fall in a day on badly hit areas. PM slated for inaction and climate crisis record. Telegraph. Lib Dems to throw out Steele over Cyril Smith sex case. Yeah, I believe that when you see it. Points-based migration to end era of cheap labour. EU insists Elgin Marbles clause into trade demands. See? We're not out. National Theatre says Duchess will stay. Britain approaching cashless tipping point. If it gets to cashless, we're screwed. Bicycle theft reports not being investigated. Coronavirus cuts Jaguar supplies. The Times. Fears over jihadist attack in jail. Killer attempted to stab prison staff in latest incident to raise concerns about radicalisation behind bars. Vegans to get own shelf in office fridge. PM and wife agree divorce amid secrecy. Waste of paper. Here's an absolute brilliant news for any ugly readers. You know who you are. Beer goggles do work. Boffins say just one drink can turn you into God's gift. Jeez. A spell of bad weather, please reach out. Yeah. FT. Keep the date. Sunak inks in March budget. Jaguar Land Rover faces closure as coronavirus limits parts supply. UK plants at risk of shutdown in weeks. Components flown out of China in suitcases. HSBC dips 6% on interim chief's push to axe 35,000 jobs in deep restructuring. And finally, did you hear about the mathematician who's afraid of negative numbers? He'll stop at nothing to avoid them. Helvetia and Times New Roman walk into a bar. Get out of here, shouts the bartender. We don't serve your types. Yesterday I saw a guy spill all his Scrabble letters on the road. I asked him, "What's the word on the street?" "Hear about the restaurant called Karma? There's no menu, you get what you deserve." Did you hear about the actor who fell through the floorboards? He was just going through a stage. Did you hear about the claustrophobic astronaut? He just needed a little space.